I was in the back seat of an Uber heading to the bank when the driver suddenly locked the doors at a red light and said, "Sir, I need to tell you something about your daughter." I thought he was crazy, maybe even dangerous. But then he showed me his phone, and I heard my own daughter's voice saying words I'll never forget. "Once we get the conservatorship papers signed, the old man won't even know what hit him." That was 3 months ago. Let me back up. My name is Robert Chen, and at 67, I thought I had life figured out. I'd spent 40 years as an aerospace engineer, raised 2 kids after my wife passed from cancer when they were teenagers, and retired to a comfortable life in Portland with my pension, savings, and the house my wife and I had bought back in the 80s. The house had appreciated nicely. 3 bedrooms in a good neighborhood, now worth about $800,000. Combined with my retirement accounts and savings, I was sitting on roughly $1.4 million. Not wealthy by some standards, but comfortable. Enough to live on, enough to leave my kids something, and enough to make me a target. My daughter Lisa was 38, married to Marcus Hayes, a financial advisor at a mid-sized firm downtown. My son Tom lived in Seattle with his family. We talked maybe once a month, but Lisa, she'd always been the one who stayed close. Or so I thought. After my wife died, Lisa made sure to visit every Sunday. She'd bring groceries, help with the yard, organize my medications. She was the dutiful daughter, and I was grateful. When she suggested I give her power of attorney just in case something happens, Dad, it seemed reasonable. She was right there, Tom was hours away. It made sense. That was my first mistake. The second mistake was letting Marcus help consolidate my retirement account. He said the fees were too high, that he could get me better returns. I signed the papers he brought over one Sunday. Lisa smiled and squeezed my hand. "We just want to make sure you're taken care of, Dad," she said. I believed her. The third mistake was not noticing sooner. But I was lonely, I'll admit that. At 67, after 5 years without my wife, the days blurred together. I went to the gym, I read. I met my buddy Frank for coffee twice a week. I didn't check my bank statements that carefully. The numbers seemed right when I glanced at them. It wasn't until 6 months after I'd signed those power of attorney papers that I started noticing small things. My credit card was declined at the grocery store. I called the bank thinking it was a mistake. They said my account was overdrawn. Overdrawn? I'd had $40,000 in that checking account. The bank representative said there had been several large transfers to another account. When I asked whose account, she said, "The joint account holder, Lisa Chen Hayes." Joint account? I didn't remember opening a joint account. When I asked Lisa about it, she looked concerned. "Dad, don't you remember? We opened that account 6 months ago so I could help you pay bills. You've been so forgetful lately." She touched my arm gently. "I'm worried about you. Maybe we should get you checked out, just to make sure everything's okay upstairs." That word, forgetful. She'd been using it more and more. In front of Marcus. In front of her friends when they came by. "Dad's getting a bit forgetful," she'd say with a sad smile, planting seeds. I started paying attention after that. I pulled my bank statements. In 6 months, $140,000 had been transferred from my accounts to accounts I didn't recognize. When I called the financial advisor's office where Marcus worked, they said my accounts had been moved to a managed portfolio and that Marcus was listed as the primary advisor. Convenient. I confronted Lisa again. This time, she didn't look concerned. She looked annoyed. "Dad, we've been over this. You signed the papers. You asked us to help. If you can't remember these conversations, that's exactly why we need to have you evaluated. Marcus has a friend who's a neurologist. We've already made you an appointment." That's when I knew. This wasn't confusion. This was a plan. I canceled the appointment. I told Lisa I was fine, that I'd just been stressed. I smiled and nodded and acted like the confused old man she was painting me to be. But I wasn't confused. I was terrified, because I realized what was happening. She was going to have me declared incompetent, get full conservatorship, and take everything. The house, the retirement accounts, all of it. And there was nothing I could do because I'd already given her power of attorney. That's when I met David Martinez. I'd started taking Ubers to avoid the bus after my car had mysteriously developed brake problems that Marcus insisted on fixing at his mechanic. David was my driver one Tuesday morning, taking me to my bank. I was going to try to close the joint account, even though I knew Lisa would be notified immediately. I sat in the back, rehearsing what I'd say to the bank manager, when David's phone buzzed on the dashboard mount. He had it connected to his car's speaker system, and a voicemail started playing automatically. It was Lisa's voice. I recognized it immediately. "Marcus, it's me. I'm at his house right now. He's at the gym. I found the bank statements he printed out. He's on to us. We need to move faster. Call Dr. Patterson and tell him we need that cognitive assessment done this week. Once we get the conservatorship papers signed, the old man won't even know what hit him. We can sell the house by next month." And David immediately turned off the speaker, his face flushing red. "I'm so sorry, sir. That was meant for my voicemail. I don't know why it played." He was fumbling with his phone, trying to delete it. "Wait," I said. My hands were shaking. Was that message for you?" David pulled over. He looked at me in the rearview mirror, and I saw something in his eyes. Recognition. Pity. "No, sir. That message was left on my phone by mistake. Your daughter. She must have called the wrong number. She probably meant to call her husband. Can you play it again?" "Sir, I don't think." "Please." He played it. I listened to my daughter's voice, planning to rob me blind, planning to have me declared incompetent, planning to sell my house, the house where I'd raised her, where her mother had died, where every room held memories of the family we'd been. When it finished, I couldn't speak. David turned around to face me. "Sir, my name is David Martinez. 5 years ago, my mother went through something similar. Her caretaker and her caretaker's boyfriend convinced her to sign over her house. By the time we found out, she'd lost everything. I recognize what's happening to you because I've seen it before. And I have to ask, do you want my help?" I looked at this stranger, this Uber driver who'd accidentally intercepted a voicemail meant to destroy my life, and I said yes. David wasn't just an Uber driver. He worked part-time as a driver to supplement his main income as a paralegal at an elder law firm. His boss, attorney Sharon Wu, specialized in financial elder abuse cases. After what happened to his mother, David had dedicated himself to helping other families. And now, he was offering to help me. But there was a problem. With Lisa having power of attorney, and already working on getting me declared incompetent, if I just went to the police or a lawyer, she could claim I was confused, paranoid. She'd already been building that narrative for months. David explained that we needed evidence. Concrete, undeniable evidence. "Can you forward me that voicemail?" I asked. He shook his head. "It's helpful, but not enough. She could claim it was taken out of context, that she was joking, that you misunderstood. We need more. We need to document the financial abuse, and we need to prove you're competent." So we made a plan. I would act like I suspected nothing. I'd go to the neurologist appointment Lisa had scheduled. But first, I'd get my own cognitive assessment from an independent doctor that David's boss would arrange. That would be our baseline, proving I was sound of mind. Second, I'd start documenting everything. Every conversation, every transaction, every interaction with Lisa and Marcus. David taught me how to use my phone's voice recorder. I started recording every time Lisa came over. Third, and this was the hardest part, I had to let them keep taking money. If I tried to stop them too soon, they'd know I was onto them and they might disappear the evidence. David assured me that everything they took could be recovered legally, but we needed them to feel confident, to make mistakes. It was the longest 2 months of my life. I went to Lisa's neurologist, Dr. Patterson, a younger man, mid-40s, with expensive shoes and a handshake that lasted a second too long. He asked me simple questions. What year is it? Who's the president? Can you count backwards from 100 by sevens? I answered everything correctly, but I could see him making notes. Lisa sat in the corner watching. After the appointment, I heard her talking to Dr. Patterson in the hallway. I couldn't make out everything, but I heard family history of dementia and progressive decline, and sooner rather than later. Dr. Patterson's report, which I later subpoenaed, said I showed signs of mild cognitive impairment and recommended evaluation for conservatorship to protect patients' interests. I'd answered every question right, and he still wrote that. Marcus's golf buddy had done exactly what they'd paid him to do. Meanwhile, my real cognitive assessment from Dr. Sarah Kim, a neuropsychologist with 30 years of experience, showed I had the cognitive function of someone 20 years younger. Perfect memory, perfect reasoning, no impairment whatsoever. That report went straight to Attorney Wu's office. I recorded 12 conversations with Lisa over those 2 months. In one, she explicitly said, "Dad, maybe it's time to think about selling the house. It's too big for you, and you're forgetting to pay the bills." I wasn't forgetting. She'd changed the mailing address on my utilities to her house so I wouldn't see the bills, then she'd pay them late to make it look like I was incompetent. In another recording, I caught Marcus explaining to Lisa how they'd transfer my retirement accounts to an offshore structure once we have full conservatorship. They were planning to hide my own money from me in accounts I'd never be able to touch. I also discovered they'd taken out a $200,000 home equity line of credit against my house. I'd never signed for it, but there was my signature on the documents. Or something that looked like my signature. David's boss had a forensic document examiner look at it. Forgery. By the time we'd gathered everything, they'd taken $347,000. They'd also started the legal process to have me declared incompetent. The conservatorship hearing was scheduled for November 15th. I'll never forget that day. It was in a cold courtroom in downtown Portland, all gray walls and fluorescent lights. Lisa sat at one table with Marcus and their lawyer, a sharp woman in a navy suit. I sat at the other table with Attorney Wu, and David sat in the gallery behind me. Lisa wouldn't look at me. She'd been crying before we came in, red-eyed, playing the devastated daughter whose father had lost his mind. Their lawyer presented Dr. Patterson's report. She showed bank statements with missed payments. She had statements from Lisa claiming I'd forgotten entire conversations, left the stove on, gotten lost driving to the grocery store. All lies, but said with such conviction. Then it was our turn. Attorney Wu stood up. "Your Honor, we have evidence that contradicts every claim made by the petitioner. We'd like to present our own medical evaluation, conducted by Dr. Sarah Kim." Lisa's lawyer objected. "Your Honor, the respondent's family has already obtained a medical opinion from a qualified neurologist. A neurologist who happens to be a personal friend of Mr. Marcus Hayes," Attorney Wu replied smoothly, "and who may have been compensated for a particular diagnosis. We have evidence of financial fraud, forgery, and a systematic scheme to isolate and rob Mr. Chen of his life savings." The judge, an older woman who looked like she'd heard every scheme in the book, raised her eyebrows. "I'm listening." Attorney Wu presented everything. Dr. Kim's cognitive assessment showing I was perfectly competent, the forensic analysis of the forged HELOC documents, the bank records showing $347,000 in unauthorized transfers, and then the recordings. When the first recording played, Lisa's voice filling the courtroom, casually discussing how to handle Dad and get the house sold quickly, I watched my daughter's face crumble. Marcus put his hand on her arm, but she shook him off. When the second recording played, the one where Marcus discussed the offshore accounts, he went pale. But the one that really did it was the voicemail David had accidentally received. When Lisa's voice said, "Once we get the conservatorship papers signed, the old man won't even know what hit him," the judge's expression changed. She'd been professional before, neutral. Now she looked disgusted. "Miss Chen Hayes," the judge said, "do you have anything to say?" Lisa was crying, real tears this time. We were trying to protect him. He's not capable of managing his money, and we thought." "You thought you'd help yourself to nearly $350,000 and commit fraud to do it?" The judge looked at the lawyers. "I'm denying the conservatorship petition. Furthermore, I'm ordering an immediate investigation into potential criminal charges for elder financial abuse and forgery. All power of attorney is hereby revoked. Mr. Chen, you're free to manage your own affairs." Marcus's lawyer started talking quickly about how this was all a misunderstanding, how they'd be happy to return the money, how there was no need for criminal charges. The judge cut him off. "That's not up to you. Bailiff, please notify the district attorney's office. Lisa grabbed my arm as I was leaving the courtroom. Dad, please. I'm pregnant. I'm 3 months pregnant. You're going to be a grandfather. Please don't do this. I looked at my daughter. I thought about the little girl who used to bring me dandelions from the backyard. The teenager who cried in my arms when her mother died. The woman who was supposed to be my family. You used my wife's death to manipulate me, I said quietly. You pretended to grieve with me while you were planning to rob me, and now you're using your unborn child as a shield. I don't know who you are anymore. She sobbed. Marcus tried to pull her away, but she shook him off. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Marcus said it would be easy, that you'd never know. That I was just a confused old man who wouldn't notice? I finished. You're sorry you got caught, Lisa. Not sorry for what you did. I walked away. David was waiting outside the courtroom. You did it, he said. I didn't feel victorious. I felt hollow. The district attorney did press charges. Elder financial abuse, forgery, conspiracy to commit fraud, but I did something that surprised Attorney Wu. I agreed to a plea deal. No prison time, but 5 years of probation, full restitution of the $347,000 plus interest, and 500 hours of community service. They'd also both lose their professional licenses. Marcus would never work in finance again. Lisa, who had her real estate license, would lose it. Why no prison time? Attorney Wu asked me. They deserve it. Because she's pregnant, I said, and because sending them to prison doesn't teach them anything except how to be better criminals. But destroying their careers, making them work minimum wage jobs to pay me back every penny, making them face their community while doing court-ordered service, that's a longer punishment. And maybe, just maybe, it'll actually change them. I don't know if it will. Lisa and Marcus are divorced now. Turns out the stress of prosecution and losing everything exposed all the cracks in their marriage. She had the baby, a girl. She named her after my wife. I've seen pictures. My son Tom sends them. He's appalled by what Lisa did, but he's trying to keep the family together for his niece's sake. Lisa writes me letters sometimes. Apologies, explanations, pleas for forgiveness. I read them, but I haven't responded. I don't know if I ever will. As for me, I'm doing something I never expected. David introduced me to his boss, Attorney Wu, and she introduced me to her network of elder law advocates. Turns out there are thousands of people like me, seniors who get targeted by family members, caretakers, financial advisors who see aging adults as easy targets. I started volunteering with a nonprofit that educates seniors on protecting themselves. I give talks at senior centers, libraries, community groups. I tell my story, the whole embarrassing truth, and I teach people what to look for. The warning signs I missed. Family members who isolate you from others, who suggest you're becoming forgetful when you're not, who rush you to sign financial documents, who change your mailing addresses or take control of your accounts to help. I also help Attorney Wu's firm with new cases pro bono. I'm not a lawyer, but I can review financial documents, spot the red flags, talk to scared seniors who don't know who to trust. Last month, we stopped a case where a man's son had stolen $500,000 over 3 years. The father didn't want to believe it, just like I didn't want to believe it about Lisa. But the numbers don't lie. David and I have become friends. Real friends, not just allies in a legal battle. He still drives Uber part-time, still works at the law firm. His mother is living in a small apartment now. Everything she owned gone, but she's safe. That's what matters, he tells me. Safety. I still live in my house, the house Lisa tried to sell out from under me. I've updated my will, left everything to Tom, and to the nonprofit I work with. There's a clause that says if Lisa ever contests it, she gets nothing. Attorney Wu made sure it's ironclad. Some nights I sit in the living room, in the chair where my wife used to read, and I think about trust. How easily it's given, how thoroughly it can be betrayed. I trusted my daughter with everything, because she was my daughter. I thought blood meant loyalty. I was wrong. But I also think about David, a stranger who could have minded his own business when that voicemail played, who could have deleted it and driven me to the bank and collected his fare and never thought about me again. But he didn't. He risked his time, his energy, his emotional well-being to help someone he didn't know. Maybe that's the real lesson. Family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up when everything falls apart. It's about who tells you the truth even when it's hard to hear. It's about who fights for you when you can't fight for yourself. David fought for me. Attorney Wu fought for me. Dr. Kim documented the truth for me. These strangers became my family when my real family betrayed me. Last week, I spoke at a senior center in Beaverton. After my talk, an elderly woman approached me. She was crying. "My son has been asking me to sign papers," she said. "He says it's to help me, but something feels wrong." I sat with her for an hour. We looked at the papers together. They were exactly what I'd feared. Power of attorney documents, account transfer forms, a quitclaim deed to her house, all in her son's name. "What should I do?" she asked. I gave her Attorney Wu's card. I told her about David, about my story, about how it's never too late to protect yourself. I told her that loving your children doesn't mean letting them destroy you. She called me 3 days later. She'd hired Attorney Wu. She'd confronted her son. He'd confessed, cried, begged for forgiveness. Just like Lisa, and just like me, she had a choice to make. I don't know what she'll choose. That's her journey. But I know she has the information now. She has the resources. She has people in her corner. And that's why I do this. Not for revenge against Lisa, though I won't pretend there isn't some satisfaction in seeing justice done. I do it because somewhere out there, there's another 67-year-old man getting into an Uber, heading to a bank, completely unaware that his life is about to change. And maybe, if I talk to enough people, educate enough seniors, train enough advocates, that man will see the warning signs I missed. He'll protect himself before it's too late. That's my inheritance now. Not the money I almost lost, not the house I managed to keep. My inheritance is the wisdom earned from betrayal, packaged into something that might save someone else. My wife used to say that pain is only wasted if you don't learn from it. She was right. I learned that trust must be earned, that documents should be read carefully, that confusion can be weaponized, and that the person trying to help you might not be family at all. They might just be a stranger with a kind heart and a accidentally received voicemail willing to lock the car doors at a red light and say, "Sir, I need to tell you something about your daughter." That's where it all started. In the back seat of an Uber, with a truth I didn't want to hear. And that's where I found my purpose, teaching others to listen when strangers speak truth, even when family speaks lies.